and then you can take it forward if you may. Um, and the first is just certainly to very much welcome Benjamin Fanas. Benjamin, you're very welcome, and thank you very much on behalf of both the Department of Family Medicine and Primary Care and on behalf of the faculty for your time and sharing your expertise today. Really grateful for your time, sir. And I must just say that on the back of this initiative driven by Janus, that it's critical that for our intern program we're looking to, in particular, develop our interns and provide opportunities for learning and growth, and of course project management, which Janus will take us into, no doubt, say the same in his introduction further, is a critical element to that. And I'm delighted that we're now getting again through the good leadership of Janus and Catherine and colleagues, we're getting we're doing taking concrete measures to upskill our interns. But alongside that, I'm also delighted that we can do the same for our administrators, and that in terms of our professional learning for our administrators, that is also critical alongside our coordinators and academic staff, who are typically the latter group, are typically the ones who we remember and we focus on, and that's a problem. We need to be doing it. We need to be looking after our PAS staff, our professional administrative staff, equally for their own growth and development potential and opportunities. So we're delighted to in that sense look to be setting up all the more of these sessions. And if any colleagues on the call have ideas as to what we might be able to do, topics we're all learning here around this, and if there are any recommendations from both the senior colleagues on the call, but also the junior colleagues, after all, it is for everyone's benefit, then please, people are very welcome to drop Janus a note on the intern side, but any one of the seniors, myself included, within the department or and within the CHSE as well, for their partnership in the professional learning series on a broader level. So with those opening remarks, if I may, Janus, I'm going to hand back to you. I'm going to get back to my clinical space, if I may, and please do not see it as a slight on our guest or on yourselves, colleagues, but I'm unable to attend myself in person today. I must get back to my clinical service, but delighted that this is going on, and all the best for the session. Janus, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Prof. Cook. So I'm not going to give a long introduction. I'm going to allow that to Ben so that he could introduce himself. But I also would just like to thank Ben for his time in order to take us through the introduction of project management, because I think all of us are part of or are working on projects, but we are not always so skilled in managing projects, and I include myself in that mix. So I thought it would be a very valuable approach. So on that note, thank you, Ben, and I'll hand over to you to start.
Good morning, Janus. Good morning, team members. Good morning, Prof. Thank you for the welcome. What we're going to do today, and now there's nothing happening. What we're going to do today is I'm going to take you through an introduction to project management. Please understand that some of this is an entry level, because there are people here who have not done this before. So for the more advanced administrators, please bear with us. You will see things that you think you know everything about. I'm hoping that somewhere in this course, you will find things that you didn't know about. What I'm going to try to do is to give you context, give you examples, explain things so that you might know a lot about project management, but if you get a specific example, you might see a different side of things that you haven't thought about before. Okay, here we go. So what our agenda is firstly as an introduction. The prof has done an introduction, Johannes has done an introduction, and I'm going to introduce myself. Then we are going to have a chit-chat session very briefly about experiences on projects. We will have a short group challenge. Then we are going to get into the more academic side of what is a project and project constraints. How do you plan a project? How do you manage a project? And then key lessons. Now, during the course, what you will see, or I hope you pick it up, this is not one of your traditional boring lessons. Project management is a very dull, dry topic for some people. And what I try to do is to make it interesting. So what I will do is I will give you examples that range from NASA to Lego to Olympic Games to various other business projects that you may or may not have heard about. Okay, about your presenter, Johannes critiqued my photo and he said I look unfriendly. So I tried to find a friendlier photo. I am a nice guy and I hope that you can see in my photo I actually am. Some of the companies or projects where I've been involved in, you can look at the logos, there might be one or two that you recognize. So these are companies and organizations that for which I was either an employee and for which I ran projects, or I was a project manager, a contractor brought in to run projects. Obviously, you start at the bottom, you work on projects, you work your way up, then you start managing projects. And from time to time, it can happen that a project is in dire straits, and then you get brought in to take over a project and try to right the ship and get it back on track. I have done a fair bit of work for government, also in the private sector. The projects that I've worked on range between probably a couple of days. I think the longest project that I've been involved in was, let's say, 5.5 years. So you are not necessarily a full-time employee on a project. You do multiple projects. At the point in time, I had a project in Pretoria, a project in Nelspruit, and a project in Botswana at the same time. And it inevitably happened that these projects had their reporting dates fall on more or less the same dates. So what I would have to do is have a meeting in Pretoria, drive to the airport, catch an airplane to Nelspruit, have my meeting in Nelspruit, drive to the airport, catch the plane back to Joburg, and catch the next plane to go to Botswana. Sleep there the night, and then the next morning present. It's the only way that we could fit it into the timelines. So you can say I have done a couple of projects and I do know a little bit about project management. What we are going to do in this session is I'm going to provide you with an overview of the various tools and mechanisms required to manage and deliver projects. This course is a supplement to a project management training course that is on LinkedIn. Now, I'm not going to give you the link to this course now because otherwise you're not listening to me. A lot of the information that I am going to provide you in this session is over and above the information that's in the LinkedIn course. It will explain quite a bit and take things more basic or more broad or more in depth. So that's why I said it supplements a LinkedIn project course. Now, firstly, I don't work for LinkedIn. I'm not associated with LinkedIn. I'm not associated with a person that put this course on LinkedIn, but this is, by the looks of it, a very good project management course. So I would suggest that you do it in your own time. It is not too difficult. It is a little bit more than an hour and a half. And once you've done it, you will get certificates of completion. This is something that you can put in on your LinkedIn profile. Now, LinkedIn has this feature that you may or may not know about. If you do a course on LinkedIn, then I'm not 100% sure how this works. The details of your qualifications are shown to potential recruiters. So it's somewhere on your profile, this information will show probably at the bottom. And if you do a LinkedIn course, this they not as easy as they look. And what the benefit is you get the idea of where you stand in the pecking order. So, for example, one of the courses that I did was an Excel course, and I was one of like a couple of million people who did it, and it shows you exactly where you stand. Now, if your LinkedIn profile is up to date, your future career prospects will improve. For those who do not have a LinkedIn profile, you can do this course for free. It is possible to open a LinkedIn profile, and if you complete this course, you should be able to do it within a month for free without them requiring you to sign up for membership. It's in your best interest in any event to be in LinkedIn if you are not. So you get certificates and you will get, after you've completed the exams, you get a little congratulations from LinkedIn, and then the information is put on your profile. Okay, now jumping into experiences on projects. What we are going to do is I'm going to start very simple. I am going to ask you a question and you have a comment section. So you are welcome to put just a basic comment if you agree or you don't agree with a statement that I'm going to make now. Then you can put it in the comment section. So I want to take you back to when you were studying and you did a project. Now imagine a class project. The reason I'm using this example is that it was a very unstructured environment where you had to do a project. And I'm guessing it went something like this. You got a group project. There was one guy who did most of the work. There were a couple of people who had no idea what was going on. There's somebody who said he's going to be there and he never showed up. And then there's people who only pitch up at the end when there's a presentation or when the marks had to be allocated. So do you agree? Was this your experience? Yes or no? Jy kommentaar lewer. Okay, I can't see the comment section, so I am going to yes, indeed. Jana says yes. Oh, there's even Johannes says he's the idiot to volunteer to do 99% of work. Now for the next section, if we actually look at what's happening at the office now, it's a different environment. The projects are different. There's more rules. Hopefully there's a little bit more structure. Now what I want you to do, we are going to ask you 2 or 3 specific questions. These are menti.com questions. So Johannes is going to post a link in the chat section. You go to the website as menti.com. When you land there, it will ask you a code. So it's a number like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Johannes will post this number in the chat section. What this is a way to participate. So you are not going to comment in this chat section. You are going to go to menti.com, type in the number, you see the question, and you give your input. You are able to give more than one answer. So, for example, if I ask you, how do you like coffee? You can say, I love it. It's best in the morning, and I can't drink it at night, whatever you want to say. So we are gonna go to the comment section to hear from our experts. Johannes, can you post the menti.com question? First one is, how do you feel about your involvement in projects in the faculty? Now, I don't want to force you to use the answers I'm giving you. I'm giving you suggestions. You might, for example, think it couldn't be better. Everything is fantastic. And when you say it's fantastic, or it might be confusing, or you think the requirements are vague, or it's okay, but you wish you had more guidance. So you can use 2 or 3 words, and you can post up to 4 comments. So I'm going to leave it to you. You can start. Can you please have a look, see if I can see it? Is everybody able to see the questions?
Yes.
Okay, what I need to mention is you get the opportunity to get things off your chest now. This is completely anonymous. So please keep it clean. Don't climb into somebody's personality, but please give us feedback. How do you feel about projects in the faculty? So one person said, I love working in an interdisciplinary team with motivated colleagues. That's fantastic. Next person said, I think it's very exciting, but I'm frustrated that they are poorly planned. Next person says, I'm satisfied about my involvement. Next person said, team projects are always entertaining. Next person said, I wish my opinions could be taken seriously. My boss wants credit for everything. Next person, I feel overwhelmed because there are so many. I'm going to leave us open for another minute or so. Next person said it was challenging because I wasn't familiar, but now it's getting interesting, but it's lots of pressure. Okay, thank you very much. We are going to close this question. We are going to a next question. No, somebody else said I'd like more involvement and have more people to engage to gain more input. Okay, we are closing this question. We are going to the next question. Okay, the next question. How do you feel about project standards and requirements? Now, again, this is anonymous. You can give up to 4 answers. So if you think the standards are clear as crystal, then you say that. If you think it's clear as mud, then you say this. If you have no idea what's cooking most of the time, then you say it. If you think it couldn't be better, then you say it. So I'm opening up the floor. Did you post the? It's a new link. It's all the same. Okay, go to Menti again and go through the same process. Menti.com and type in the number and it should go to the next question. Hey, we're waiting for feedback. And okay, first person, I feel very good and I'm satisfied. Now I'm happy that you're happy, but my question was about project standards. Do you think the standards are clear? Do you think it's sufficient? Do you think there's too much red tape? Do you think there's enough structure? Okay, we need clearer standards. Requirements need to be more defined. Next answer. It's not clearly defined. It needs to improve. Next person says it's clear. Next person says the standards are confusing sometimes, but the structure is consistent. That's good. Next question says, help I can't add an answer. Well, you just did. Congratulations. Next question. The standards are high, but the expectation about what's actually possible is a bit hazy. Next question. We need clarity on expectations. Next question. I feel there could be more structure. Next answer. I usually feel clear, but sometimes the work gets a bit confusing. And complexity adds depth, and we need more direction then. Okay, we are going to close this one. Last question. The last question is, how do you feel about the project communication? So it's exactly the same process as you've done before. Do you think that the instructions you get are clear or don't you? And if there's a problem with the instructions or the communication in general, what do you think is the communication problem? Do you think they wait too long? Is it vague? Is it not specific enough? Okay, first comment, generally well stipulated and easy to follow.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, our technical operator had some challenges. So how do you feel about the project communication specifically? So this is not the standards. Has everybody been able to access this question? Project communication. Yes, here's the first answer. So being an intern makes it hard to organize proper communications like meetings and whatnot. What about it makes it difficult for you? Okay, 2 more responses. Here it comes through. Okay, there's changes in process or the deadlines are not communicated. Now I can understand why that can be frustrating. Sometimes it's difficult time to find with people because everybody's busy. Communication should be ongoing and consistent. Communication can be improved for better understanding. I tend to receive feedback after the time, which can be frustrating. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to close this so that we can continue to the next. Where do I share?
Ja, jy gaan terug. Is nog 'n kane, ja, klik jy op daai.
Okay, group challenge. This is very easy. I'm going to try and keep it as easy as possible. Now, firstly, we are going to do a demo, a training challenge, just to get you into the idea of what is required of you. And it's really as easy as falling out of a tree. So this is a practice session. Now we're going to take the activity of something as easy as making coffee. So is there anybody here who has never made coffee and has never seen coffee made and possibly never driven past the house where there was coffee being made? Because then this is going to be a challenge for you. But for the rest of us, I think this is very easy. So firstly, we understand the problem. You break it up into little steps. You take Miro, we're going to give you a link for Miro board. You post it. So step 1, step 2, like for example, if it is eat cake, was your challenge, then the steps are take a fork, take the cake, take the fork and break a piece of a cake, lift the fork to your mouth and eat it. So similarly, very simple, we do the coffee. Now what you're going to do, somebody's mic is on. You order the steps in a logical sequence in such a manner where following the steps would solve the problem. Your problem is making coffee, so it is very easy. Now I'm going to go to the Miro board and we can just comment. Link copied. Okay, yeah, look at the comment section. The link should be shared there. Kyk, Tantiwe is hier, Janus is hier. Catherine is here with 4 people now. We're waiting for the rest of you to join. SMP just joined. We still a couple of people missing. Okay, thank you, Tandiwe. Next step, suggestion, boil water. But before you boil the water, what do you need to do? You need to flip the switch. Who wants to go with the next step? So Arshad is find a suitable place to make it. Well, it's probably going to be in your kitchen, but that would be then your first step, I would guess, before you start with everything. Okay, what's the next step after you boiled the kettle? Okay, somebody's very clever. Get them back. I think what I'm going to do is I'm parking this. This is just the introduction so that you can get a feel for how to solve the problem. Thank you to everybody who participated. We are now going to go into the actual challenge. This was just to give you a warm-up. So what my suggestion to you is you don't have to do a proper process flow. Just keep it simple, stick to the basics, and try to put your post-its in a logical sequence. So first you put water in the kettle, then you turn the kettle on, then the water boils, etc. So I'm zooming out on my board. What you see here is there's a group 1. I hope you can see this. There's a group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4. What Johannes is going to do is he is going to allocate you into groups. What the objective of this exercise is, there are 4 groups. Let me go back to my presentation. Still sharing. Okay, group breakaway challenge. Now, this is very similar, and what I want to ask you is, you are each, there's 3 or 4 teams. Johannes is going to split, he'll make it 3 teams. Try to be equal numbers. There's a facilitator in each team that Johannes will communicate with. We're gonna give you a very simple challenge. This is, we're giving you specific information, and you will take the problem that you have. You will use post-it on your board. So if you are team 1, you go to team 1. If you are team 2, you go to team 2 space. Just scroll around on them. It's exactly the same Miro board where you just were. It's very simple. Put the stuff into sequence. And this is a little project that you are going to solve. So step number 1, understand the problem. Step number 2, break it up into steps. Step number 3, put it in post-its in a logical sequence. And when you are done, now we don't have an infinite amount of time. So we are going to give you about 5 to 7 minutes. Present the sequence. So all that we want to see is the steps, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If your process splits, that you have multiple things happening at the same time, you can open 2 or 3 or 4 columns with post-its. And when it's finished, show us so you can go to the internet. Let's say the project that I'm giving you is to build the Eiffel Tower. You are going to put your 10 or 15 steps and post-its in sequence. And then you are going to show a picture of our Eiffel Tower next to your post-its. And this is what you would have achieved if you followed the steps in the way and the sequence that you indicated them. So the introduction to the challenge. Now, each team is going to get a different problem, but the introduction for all of you is the same. So the dean of a faculty, the office of the dean of a faculty phones you and says the dean wants to see you. He's heard that you are one of the best project managers in the faculty. There is a project that is very near and dear to his heart or her heart, and he wouldn't trust anybody other than you and your team to solve it. But he's going on a research mission. There's a new discovery for there's research happening, and discoveries are taking place for solutions for the coronavirus. He has to go to Antarctica for 4 months to work in a base. And he can only meet you at the airport before he catches his airplane. So you jump in your car, you drive to the airport, and now Johannes is going to tell each team leader what their part of a problem is. So the dean wants to give you a project. He has something that he wants you to do because he trusts you to do it. And this has to happen so that it is ready by the time that the dean comes back. Now I'm going to give a mic to Johannes, and Johannes is going to communicate.
Hey everyone. So Catherine, I see your question about the Miro board. If you click on the Miro board, you'll see that if you zoom out, it's on the. Okay, let me just see. Actually, it might be better if I just post it in the
group. So if you click on this part, it will give you frames, and then you can select the frame because there's 4 frames in which the okay. So if you click on that, you can see a frame, and then that's where you will find group 2, group 1, group 3, and group 4. So in that space is where you can then add your comments. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the breakout function, and I'm going to split you into 3 groups. So, and then I will send the I need 3 rooms and create rooms. Okay, so I'm just quickly creating the rooms. Okay, just give me a second. One. Sign. 2. Okay, so let me see if can I join. Actually, miskien sal dit beter wees as ons die questions op elkeen van die boards sit. So one, waar jy het my questions ge-WhatsApp. Just tell them question team 1 is your question. Copy. So wat moet ek vir hulle sê?
Daar's 3 kamers, daar's 3 vrae, kan jy elke span hulle vrae sien en verstaan wat hulle moet doen. So dan moet hulle begin met ons hardloop tyd. Kan vir hulle 5 minute gee van af.
Nee, want dis 3 nee, ek het nie ek moet there's still people in the meeting room.
Where's Giannis, it's Mervyn, good morning. I'm in the meeting, but I've only got the last slide. I can't see any of your work. I've only got the last slide that's about the breakaway challenge and what's involved.
Hi, Jana. Same here. I'm also still in the meeting.
Okay.
Same here.
So I think sorry, let me just so I can hear my okay. But so I think the people in this room go to group 3. So if you're on the Miro board, you'll see I posted the question there, and we can just discuss the what you need to do in this group. So is everyone on Miro?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so yeah, we can just so if you go to group 3, if you could just if we can start there to answer the question. The Dean wants a triple story entertainment venue with all basic home creature comforts. So how will we
Break it down into steps in terms of what would you do to find a venue that complies with requirements.
Okay.
So for example, you will look at property 24, or you will look at the newspaper, or you'll phone an estate agent and you put the stuff in sequence. How do you find a venue? Are you going to buy it? Are you going to rent it? Make a decision and follow the sequence.
Yeah. Okay, so what's the first step that we need to do? Anyone? So how would we go about developing a triple story entertainment venue?
So of course you ask the dean his requirements as to, just like Ben said, does he want to buy or does he want to rent, or for how many hours, or for how long will he be there. You then go on to different platforms, online platforms, to check let me just quickly go into Mirror again, to check for a triple story venue. And then you will need to find out also what his requirements will be in terms of the entertainment venue, the look and the feel for it. I think maybe that can be like step 1.
So step 1 is to get a
full understanding of like what the entertainment venue, the dean wants. Yes, he wants a triple story, but also like the look and the feel, the aesthetics, like what type of triple story does he want. And once he gives you that information, then you of course go looking online or calling estate agents to find out, this is the spec that the dean has given you. Can you maybe view properties that look like what he wants?
Okay. So full brief of specification. Full
Yes.
brief of, okay, then the next step. What would the next step be?
So then once you have the specifications, you then go and view the venue to see.
Okay, so no, first you need to look for the venue. So full
Yeah,
brief
you're
of
gonna look.
specification and then
Yes,
look.
look for the venue, whether it's on online platforms, your Property 24, or
Okay. So
yeah.
no. You first need to determine where you're going to find. So
Okay,
determine
location. Okay, so the next step will be location. Where does you
software
want it located?
where you will look. Determine software where you will or approach. Determine approach for how you will look for the venue. So contacting real estate agents, contacting a real. Anyone else? What is there any steps that I'm missing out?
The location, maybe the size. Okay, but we already said that because it's part of the.
That's in the that's part of
Yeah,
the
that's part of the
brief.
specification.
So determine the approach. Okay, for how you would look for contacting real estate and so forth. What is the second step that you would
Of course, after you have contacted the real estate or you found whatever on Property 24, then they'll probably call you back to view the building, the venue.
I'm actually posting it on group 1 instead of group 3. Sorry. Control X. Okay. So so full brief of specification, determine the approach for how you look for the venue, and the next step would be
To go and view the venue. Because now
okay.
you've already determined the approach, whether you're looking online or whatever, but a real estate agent will definitely contact you. From there on out, they'll make contact with you and you're gonna then have to go and view the building or the venue.
Okay, so well, you would first shortlist the venue. So
Okay,
create a shortlist. So create a shortlist of venues.
And then from there, then view. Okay.
Venues, and then you will
Sure.
go and control copy V, and you would go view venues. Okay. I can view. Okay, view venues. So is that view short? Okay, so that's the so create a short list of venues. Then determine approach of how you look for the venue and full brief of specification. So that's I think that's our 4 steps. Okay. We will. I think we need to come back. Okay.
Hey, ladies and gents, what we just simulated is a very realistic project experience. The requirements are vague. The time is short. The people are difficult. You are not sure what's expected of you. You don't know when it has to be finished. You don't know what they want. You don't know what the quality standards are. There were no project management standards to adhere to. There were no templates. It's a little bit chaos. So if you manage to deliver something decent, then I would be really impressed with you. Now we're going to look very briefly. So what team one were supposed to do is they were responsible for organizing event catering. Okay, to repeat what I said, guys, you can stop working. Deadline is done. The dean is coming back and you are presenting. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to briefly touch on what every team was supposed to be doing. So for starters, team number one, you were responsible for event catering. The details that you got were very cryptic. The only thing that the dean said to you is you must have at least sweet and savory dishes and cover the dietary basics. So what you said is number one, determine the amount of participants involved. Secondly, acquire dietary restrictions. Next, contact the catering company to cater for the event with the requirements. Then there would obviously be a few more steps, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to go into those. Okay, group two, what were you supposed to do? Group two, the dean wants an interactive and age-appropriate culinary experience. So now think of a food preparation experience where you can really get your hands dirty and get involved for a group of people. This is what I wanted to do. Now, I am not sure if group two, apart from baking cupcakes and ordering the ingredients, at any further steps. As there anybody in group two can just give us a 30 seconds synopsis of the steps that you took in the chat, or you can turn on your mic.
I'm happy to give some feedback. I just think what you've mentioned were our challenges. The brief was way too vague. We didn't know what we had to do, so we were discussing those aspects first in the limited time that we had. So we didn't really get much onto the board itself for those very reasons. It was like, well, we don't actually know what is what is needed, what we're supposed to do. It was just way too vague.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you very much. Now we're gonna look at group three. Group three, it looks like there's a few brainiacs. So what group three had to sort out, what the dean's challenge to group three was to find a triple story entertainment venue with all of the basic home creature comforts. So what group three in sequence said is number one, start with a full brief of specifications. Secondly, determine the approach for how you look for a venue. Like, for example, are you renting it? Are you buying it? Are you building it? Next, create a short list of venues, view the short list of venues, and when they got stuck and they ran out of time. Okay, so all of the teams had an opportunity to participate. You should have a pretty decent idea of what you achieved and didn't achieve. Jonas, can you just get my screen back to PowerPoint? Okay, so now everybody did the best they could do within the time that we had, and admittedly it was extremely challenging. The information was vague, but you tried your best. Now, what if I told you that the project objectives was to organize a function for very important guests? One of the key requirements for the function was you need an interactive kitchen experience, you need catering, and you need a triple story venue because that's what the dean specified. So now if I had to elaborate and give you the information that you didn't have, the important guests that the dean had in mind, the catering that the dean had in mind, the interactive kitchen experience that the dean had in mind, the triple story function venue that the dean had in mind. Is this what you achieved, do you think? Now in the chat section, please give your comments. Do you think you achieved the goal? Secondly, how did participation in this project make you feel? And thirdly, do you think the dean still thinks you're the best project manager in WITS? Just quickly, shoot with your comments. Okay, one person said no, not at all. Not even. We didn't achieve a goal. We needed greater specificity. We started communicating. No, we missed the plot. No. Okay, I think everybody gets the idea. You were given a project and you didn't achieve the goals. This is one of the biggest challenges that you are going to experience on projects. This was a remarkably accurate experience that some of you might already have had on projects, and if you haven't, you will soon. Where you participate in a project, you don't know what's required, you don't know what's expected of you, you don't know what the standard is, and it turns into chaos. So there are certain steps that you have to follow to define a project and to understand the project constraints to make sure that these type of problems don't happen. So firstly, I'm going to take you through what is a project. Now, a project could be a very large variety of different things, and I'm only going to touch on some examples. If you design a spaceship, that is a project. If you put up a satellite, that is a project. If you design a new product or a service, that is a project. If you build a power station, whether it's coal or nuclear, it's a project. If you develop a new computer system or you buy and implement a new computer system, that is a project. When you move house, your house, and you are not a house moving company, so you are not Bills or somebody. For you, this is a project. If you build a road, if you organize a sporting competition, if you paint a baby's room, that is a project. Now you have to understand that there's a difference between a project and business as usual. So let's say you implement a new payroll system for work. If you implement the system, that is a project. If you run the payroll every month, that is business as usual. If you design a rocket ship for the first time, it is a project. If you are like Elon Musk and you keep on using the same rocket ship until it explodes, it is a repetitive business activity. Then it is business as usual. If you move your own house and you do it once, it is a project. If you move houses for other people, it is a business activity. So if you design a car once, you do the next version of a new Bugatti, it is a project. The moment that you start repetitively doing that and building the car, it is business as usual. Now, there's quite a lot of definitions for projects, and I'm going to take you through a couple of them so that you can get your head wrapped around when something is a project. So firstly, it's a series of tasks that need to be completed to reach a specific outcome. The next one, a set of inputs and outputs required to achieve a particular goal. Next one, a specific activity that produces an observable and measurable result under specific requirements. Lastly, this is one of the bigger project management organizations' definition. It's a temporary, unique, and progressive endeavor to produce a tangible or intangible result. So it's a product, a service, a benefit, a competitive advantages. It includes a series of interrelated tasks that are planned for execution over a defined period of time and within certain requirements such as cost, quality, performance, and others. If we look at the characteristics, this might help you to define a project better. It starts with a project or a goal. It has a specific objective that you want to achieve. It could range from simple to complex. It could be short, it could be a few days, or it could be a few years. Some of the big project organizations define a project as something that's at least 3 months. For your purposes, you can work on something shorter. It is purposeful, it is logical, it has boundaries, it is structured, there are interdependencies. There could be conflict as it tries to solve a problem that causes problems. It is limited by available resources. There could be risk. It's a temporary activity. It's not business as usual. Now, if we look at project constraints, these are the limitations when you try to achieve something. Unfortunately, we work in the real world and you don't have infinite time, infinite effort, infinite capability, and infinite budget to achieve something. So under normal circumstances, a project has specific constraints. Firstly, there's budget. This is very simple to explain. You get a salary. Let's say your salary is 10,000 a month, hypothetically. If you spend 5,000, you still have 5,000. If you spend 10,000, you have nothing left over. If you spend 100,000, you're in trouble. If you spend 1,000,000, you're probably gonna go to jail. So it's a very simple understanding. You have a budget, there's a limit, this is what you have to spend. Now, Johannes says, in your context, there is no budget because you don't ordinarily have budget on a project. To some extent, that is true, and to some extent, it is not. The reason being, you do not have infinite resources to throw at a problem. So yes, you do have a budget. You have to work with what is available. You don't have infinite time to throw at a problem. So yes, you do have a budget. You have a restraint. Next question, scope. If I send you to the shop and I tell you to buy milk, bread, and cheese, that is the scope. If you came back and you bought fizzers and lollipops and you didn't buy any of the 3 things that I sent you, then you did not achieve the scope. It is very simple. If somebody meets you on the way there and they try to convince you to do something with your budget that you have to use for milk and bread and cheese, now you don't have money, however, for bread and cheese, you did not achieve your scope. Lastly, you have time. You have a specific period within which you try to achieve a specific goal. You don't have infinite time. And I think everybody understands the concept of deadlines. So on this specific point, you get projects where they tell you we want to implement a new computer system. And we want to get it done by the 30th of September. That deadline is an important deadline, but there's not really a specific reason for that deadline. It could be a date that suited somebody or whatever. There's not necessarily, sometimes there's not a business justification for a deadline. Now, if you do a project like create a vaccine, it is very difficult to add a deadline to it. The reason being is you don't know by when you are going to get to the solution. Then you get a third type of project, which is if you have to have Olympic Games, or you have to build an airport, or you have to do a World Cup. There's a specific deadline. This deadline does not change. You can stand on your head. If you are behind and you miss it, you missed it. Now, between these 3 elements of budget, scope, and time, there's a consistent interplay, and they impact and they influence one another. If you achieve all of them, then you achieve quality. Now, some project management courses will say that your restraints are money and quality and time, and others will have other definitions. What I went with is specifically, if you achieve all 3, then you achieve quality. This simplifies it a little bit because I'm going to show you a couple of challenges experienced on the real world projects. So that will take it to the next level for you. Now, remember what I said is that there are constraints and your project will move between these 3. So it is possible, if you are very good, to manage a project within the budget to deliver exactly every piece of scope and to do it within the time available. And if you have done that, then you've achieved quality. But this is unfortunately not always the case. Sometimes it is possible to do the scope and the time, but you can't do the budget. So you're not going to get quality. So you can be cheap and fast, but not very good. Or you could be cheap and slow and not, cheap and good, but it will be slow. Or you could have high quality and speed if you are willing to pay. and the pay would be more than the amount of money that you have. So next question, I've now very basically illustrated to you these are the three or these are the four considerations within which all the boundaries, the constraints within which you are trying to achieve, within which you are trying to operate. So how does scope and time and budget impact the project? I'm now going to give you a few examples, and I'm going to work from very simple to much more complicated. You're welcome to comment in the comment section as we go on. Now, hypothetically, you get the instruction or your specification is to bake a child's birthday cake, and this is what the requirement was. This is a Disney princess, and this is your child's favorite Disney princess, and you do your best, and you bake the cake, and it comes out like this. Next example, you take your car to Mercedes because the air conditioning is not working. They tell you 50,000 to fix the air conditioning. Your friend says, don't worry, I know somebody who can do it for cheaper. Next example, you install a new kitchen in your house. And when you move into the kitchen, this is what you discover. Now, it's very useful to have a drawer that you can't open to put things that you don't like in. Next example, you get somebody to build a building for you. And they build it exactly according to your plan. As we go on with the examples, you are welcome to comment. What do you think that they missed? Did they miss time? Did they miss budget? Did they miss specification? Or did they miss quality? Or did they completely miss the plot? Next one. You construct the building and the contractor gets given a very clear instruction that they have to make the building accessible for people in wheelchairs. Okay, so as you can see, these are real photos. I'm not making this up. Do you think they might have done it on time and on budget, but do you think they met scope and specifications? Next example. Next example. Okay, just to bring you in the picture, this is a pipe that has to be installed section by section. It's like a manhole so that you can climb down and you can access, like for example, if it's a telecommunication system or a drainage system, you can work down in the hole and then you can climb back up. So this could have been done on specification. It was done on budget and on time, but what's wrong with it? This is an actual photo of a construction project in Russia, as far as I know. Do you think this is usable to whoever's paying for this? Next section. You appoint a construction company to work at a railroad. You come back and they had to install something, and this is what they did. It could be on time, it could be on budget. They could have done exactly the right thing in exactly the wrong way. Okay, let's go to a children's play park. So you decide to take your child to a play park that the city has installed. It could have been done on time and on budget. What do you think is wrong with this? Next example, children's play park. Again, could have been on time and on budget. Okay, I'm moving on to the next example. Okay, roads and transport. This is somebody who decided that they're gonna buy paint and they're not paying for delivery. So they didn't take the necessary precautions. This is a road painting. Can you see the problem? Maybe this person needs to go to school. Now, if we jump into more technical requirements or more complicated projects like a real world projects, because the examples I've given you up to now were very easy peasy. And I think we're going to manage to do this one before we run out of time. So we will have to schedule a next section. This is Montreal Olympic Games in 1976. This is a real world example. When the city got the work, they didn't invite any competitive bids. So the first architect that put in a plan for a stadium was appointed. The project fell 2 years behind. The mayor took charge and he had no construction experience. The design was very complicated. The workers striked for 155 days out of 530 days. The stadium cost, and listen to this, 1,990% more than what was budgeted. They had zero project controls. Along with the cost overrun, the stadium wasn't completed on time, and half of the features of the stadium they couldn't get to. So Montreal didn't have money. They had to start a lottery to collect taxes, and they started taxing cigarettes to get enough money. It took Montreal from 1976 to November 2006. This is 30 years to pay off the Olympic Games. So I'm going to stop here. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Johannes before we stop this party.
Hi everyone. Thanks Ben for presenting. Just before we close, I just wanted to know whether you have any questions. I'm going to try and see if I can. Any questions, comments, or feedback? Stephen, I see your hands up.
Sorry, that must have been an old hand.
Oh, okay.
No, it wasn't up. What are you talking about? I just put it up now. It's now down again.
Okay, so anyone for questions? Okay, so I've got a question, but it's not for our team to answer this now. It is for us to think a bit about, and then we can maybe discuss this in our management meeting on Monday. So based on this session, so what we've learned about scope, time, budget, and quality, and going through all the examples in terms of knowing exactly what the scope is, but also, not actually missing the plot still, even though you're within the scope. What can we as a team do to better, to better our project management and project communication and so forth? So I want you to go away and think about that, and then we can discuss that next week.
Hey, Johannes, I think that is a brilliant idea. But before you completely jump into the next part of my presentation, please bear with us. What we will have to do is to have follow-up sessions. I've only started jumping into projects. I hope that you can see projects are potentially fascinating. You will not believe the things that can go wrong on projects, and your mind will be blown if you see what can be achieved on projects if you do it properly. So in the next section, or the next session, which we will schedule, I'm going to continue giving you more practical world examples, but then I have to jump into the real application. So what are the things you need to think about? What do you have to put in place? What do you do for different projects? And what type of trainers do you need on different projects? And we will take it down from there until we have covered the requirements from what do you need to think about when you plan a project, what do you think about when you do a project. So that's after the planning. What actual requirements do you have to have in place for monitoring the project? And then lastly, what we are going to end up with is specific suggestions, specific hints, things to keep in mind to help you make sure your next project is a success. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I think Johannes will be in touch and he will schedule the next session with you.
Okay, right. Thanks, everyone. Hope you have a good day. And yeah, I'll probably schedule the next session for next week, Friday. But I will inform everyone about that. Okay. Hope you have a good Friday.